Hello, Nick Dixon here.
And Ken Tyger, welcoming you to DA Lubricant's maintenance response to the COVID-19 shutdown.
With the current COVID-19 pandemic, some will abandon their traditional maintenance procedures due to the rapid shutdown of our companies, leaving their equipment sitting idle for weeks to months, which can have a devastating effect when we start back up our operations. The idle time can have serious consequences on the condition of our lubricants. Now, what better way to get an inside peek of how your equipment is performing than to use DA Lubricant Company's controlled lubrication service before we start back to work?
Now, as we come back to work, there will be two commissioning concerns. Number one, equipment to be put back into service after 30 to 60 days of idle or static period storage. And two, equipment to be put back into proper storage until it needs to be used again, 90 days or so. Remember, every machine is different. Take the time to go over recommissioning procedures set forth by the OEM, the original equipment manufacturer. Let's start with 30 to 60 days sitting idle or static. Main concerns obviously are water contamination, fuel quality, and oil contamination. Water builds up through condensation, even in closed systems. Engine oils and TO4 fluids emulsify water by design. However, they rely on high temperatures to evaporate water contamination. Therefore, there can be free water at the bottom of the reservoir. Check the drain plug. Water contamination will generally cause the oil to look milky. Hydraulic and gear oils demulsify water by design. They should not appear milky because water should settle to the bottom, being heavier than oil. Most systems have a water drain built in that must be checked prior to operation. Oil analysis can pinpoint the amount of water in a sample. Be careful to obtain a strong representative sample. Oil analysis is critical as it not only gives you a nice snapshot of the health of the hardware at any given time, but a nice snapshot of the health of the oil as well. Check for water. Operate equipment unloaded for 10 minutes and check for water again.
All good points, Ken. Let's talk about fuel quality. In general, the shelf life of fuel is about 6 months for gasoline and about a year for diesel. Biodiesel has a significantly shorter shelf life, even if blended into regular diesel fuel. So now, let's take advantage of DA's new fuel testing service, which can be a benefit to you. Also, let's consider a dose of fuel system cleaner, such as Centane or Octane Booster. And one of the other items we should remember, stock some extra fuel filters and be ready to change to a few new ones when we start our equipment back up. Now, oil contamination. As Ken mentioned, water will be the main contaminant. In addition, consider also antifreezes. Antifreeze leaks may develop, and existing small leaks may cause serious oil contamination. So again, we want to check for haziness. Run at no load for 10 minutes and check again, and then sample. Rust is a main contributor of this idle time. Most of our oils contain effective rust inhibitors, but the oil must be slashed onto metal parts every 30 days or so. Especially with increased water from contamination, rust can be a real issue. Visually inspect valve covers and other accessible spaces. Rust will show up also in your oil analysis report. If your report comes back with high iron, change the oil, sample again. Do it more frequently until a new iron baseline is established. Now, fuel. Fuel can collect from leaky systems. Oil sampling reports will verify that. Paint chips, wind-blown debris, and other foreign contaminants may find their way into your reservoirs. Remain observant. sample and change oil when in doubt. And if you have the time to sample, great. If not, seriously consider changing oil, specifically in critical machinery. If you find a reservoir with excessive water, seriously consider adding a decant filter.
Great tips and great hindsight, Nick, as always. And don't forget, battery safety, especially after recharging said battery, for fear of poisonous and or explosive fumes. Air filters or anywhere critters can nest, or wind, as Nick indicated earlier, that can accumulate debris. Special oil analysis protocol for recommissioning of idle equipment. Review of quick on-site tests. A maintenance person on site could do like a simple visual inspection and something as elementary as a hot plate test to determine moisture content of any given lubricant. More frequent oil analysis for a short period of time. Sample, sample, sample. Nick and I cannot emphasize that point enough. More oil changes. The more frequent, carefully selected intervals, the better for the overall health and longevity of the equipment. After commissioning, periodic checks must be done to verify that operations is running the equipment in a way that prevents failures. And remember to check error codes frequently. Moving equipment into semi-permanent storage, 90 to 120 days, or the longer, lengthy, static, or idle conditions. Take steps to help minimize harm to the equipment as it sits. Seriously consider a fresh oil change to ensure a full charge of rust inhibitor. Top off fuel tanks to avoid condensation as much as possible. And last but not least, disconnect the battery. On a monthly storage scenario, start the machine and allow it to warm up to operating temperature. Many feel the need to start the equipment, and rightly so. What they fail to remember is that they must run that application to operating temperature. If they do not do so, then they risk producing more of the nasty byproduct of internal combustion moisture that's just going to be left sitting in that engine. Run the equipment to operating temperature. Cycle all hydraulics a couple of times. Physically move the equipment a few yards under its own power to allow transmission, differentials to splash oil around. Permanent storage over 120 days, specialized procedures are required to vary significantly by the type and the manufacturer of your equipment. And obtain and follow recommendations from your OEM, again, your original equipment manufacturer.
Ken, these are great tips and points that we can pass out to potential customers and our existing customers. And you can find more information about what we've talked about at our website, www.dalube.com.
On behalf of my colleague Nick Dixon, the rest of our DA family, and all of our loyal customers across this great country of ours, thank you very much for joining us. Be safe and have a wonderful day.